listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Erin.
I'm Bri.
And I'm Rachel.
And it's time for Hymn Sing with Sarah. It is Christmas/Advent season, depending on when you're listening to this and how strict you are about when Christmas actually starts happening in your household. And I think we all have differing opinions on that. But I got to look into Christmas carols this time and thinking back through what my favorite Christmas carols are. And I asked all of you on our Facebook group what your favorite Christmas carols are. But before I talk about mine, I want to talk about all of yours first. So, Bri, what are your favorite Christmas carols, plural, or favorite Christmas caroling memories?
So I don't really want to talk about my favorite Christmas carol, or carols for that matter, because I feel like we have a general consensus about what makes a good Christmas carol and what makes a bad Christmas carol, if there are any. Who it's up for debate, I suppose.
There are bad Christmas carols.
I mean, of course, my most cherished Christmas caroling memories come from grade school, when I was involved with the choir, and every Christmas we would kind of do the rounds at local nursing homes and sing Christmas carols, and sort of as a reward for that, because I don't know, I remember that part of the adventure with such like fear and trepidation and anxiety. I don't know, there was something about that environment. But to sort of sweeten the deal, we would go to St. Clair Square Mall after caroling at the nursing homes, and we would sing in the mall.
Oh, that sounds super fun.
And then we ate lunch. We would eat like Sbarro pizza and go shopping.
Classic.
Mall pizza.
And sing for the people at St. Clair Square.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
It does.
But looking back on it, the whole shebang was just a really cherished and beloved, like the whole thing was special.
Yeah.
From start to finish.
I feel like it is for a lot of people,
Yes,
which is why this is such a fun episode. Erin, what about you?
I have similar Christmas caroling memories of going to nursing homes. One that, as when you were telling your story, I suddenly had a flash of a memory.
I love that.
This was when I was an adult, and my church went to wasn't truly I guess it was sort of a nursing home / home for people that needed help getting through their daily life. And we had a church member, longtime member. She is now with Jesus, Wendy Tucker, and she was a delightful person who loved Jesus with all her heart, and struggled a lot with other things too. But I remember going there because that's where she lived. I would often give her rides to church, and she would always be concerned because I would sometimes get there a little late. We didn't get to church late, but we would sometimes get to Sunday school late, and she always wondered if perhaps I had forgotten her. And I was like, Wendy, I've never forgotten you yet. But really, that was just me being defensive because I knew I was late and she was counting on me. But anyway,
You were justifying your lateness.
We went there and caroled there for her and her friends, and she loved it because we were singing about Jesus, and she loved being able to have that there for the people that her friends there that lived with her. So that was one of my favorite caroling memories.
That's
that
beautiful.
I'd forgotten until just now.
Aw.
Wendy!
Yeah, Wendy Tucker.
Wendy Tucker. Rachel, what about you?
Okay, so my favorite Christmas caroling memory has absolutely nothing to do with my favorite Christmas carol, and I'm glad because
that's
the memory
okay.
itself is kind of negative.
Yes.
Oh,
So-
boy.
Me and my Christian school girlfriends would get together for like a Christmas caroling sleepover gingerbread party at Christmas time. So any teenage girls out there, this is great bonding experience, and you'll see exactly how. in a moment. But, get all your girlfriends together. You make your gingerbread house. Then you go caroling in the evening. And we went out in the neighborhood, and it was a safe neighborhood, so no trouble. But it's like trick-or-treating, only caroling. You go ring on random doorbells and serenade them. And because you're, adorable teenage girls, everyone's like, oh, and sometimes they give you cocoa, and sometimes they give you cookies, and sometimes they're just slam the door in your face. But whatever, it's super fun.
Call the police.
So this one time I was out caroling with some girlfriends in this trick-or-treat style fashion. And we decided that our next house we were going to lead off, because we always end with "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." We usually do one song before, and we would alternate that. "Joy to the World," "Silent Night," But this time we were like, okay, we haven't done Rudolph the Red Nosed Reindeer all night. We got to do Rudolph.
Okay.
And so, we're all agreed. We're going to do Rudolph, and then we'll lead into "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." We go up and we ring the doorbell, and this really, really hot guy opens the door. And half of us burst out into Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And half of us turn around, and abandon the rest of us.
Which side were you on, Rachel?
Yeah.
I was on Team Rudolph because
That's my girl.
Yes, you were.
And I hate to use that objectifying language when it comes to our brothers, but at the time, that's the only way to describe what a teenage girl would encounter upon opening the door and seeing a very attractive, slightly older male person there, and it just giggles. So many giggles.
I kind of thought you were going to say they opened their door and they had a giant red nose. And it was some sort of medical condition.
I also thought that was where you were going with it.
And you were going to be like, Ruda,
The real story is way better.
Yeah. So Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, no longer my favorite Christmas carol, because I still blush a little bit when I remember that. But I did make it all the way through. I want it known. But my favorite Christmas carol, Sarah, since you asked, and no one else was like,
I know, no one else actually gave a carol.
you gave us one or the other.
I did give you an option. It's true.
Okay, well, just like with Rudolph, I'm going to go for it. My favorite Christmas carol is "What Child Is This?"
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That is a good
Which
one.
is wonderful. Unlike Sarah, who's prejudiced against English hymns, I love them. So
I
here
don't
we
hate
have
all
green.
of them.
We have Green Sleeves making its appearance in the hymnal, and this wonderful Christological hymn, "What Child Is This?" And then it goes on to tell you, who he is, what he came for, what he did, and how we feel about that. I mean, there are very few hymns Christmas hymns that I feel like go through the whole gamut, like this one does. And it's got beautiful poetic language, a lovely tune. And if you're really going gung-ho in this, you can, when you get to raise the song, you can just power through this
Screamo.
one. So much gusto. Sorry, that blew out your speakers.
Screamo Christmas.
Do either of you, Erin or Bri, have a favorite, or do you just love all of them? Because that's okay too.
I do love all of them, and so I move through different favorites because of that.
That's fair.
And
I do
so
too.
right now, two of the ones that I like a lot are because they aren't ones that I really remember growing up with, and so they seem sort of fresher to me. So one is "In the Bleak Midwinter," which isn't a new hymn by any means or a new carol by any means, but it's just not one that I remember hearing much at all growing up. So I love that one.
And that one actually has a female writer.
Yes.
Christina
indeed.
Rossetti.
Right.
Famous poetess.
Right. And then the other one that I like right now, it's in our hymnal, and it was one that was totally new to me, was "See Amid the Winter Snow."
Yeah.
And that one is another one that I just think is lovely.
I have high schools from memories from high school.
Yeah.
From that one. We used to sing that at the
Nice.
end of
Yeah,
every Christmas.
I will be honest, the way I actually just sort of discovered that one, quote marks around discovered, is through the Annie Lennox Christmas album.
Oh, lovely.
Which is actually, I'm going to just say, I get no profit from this. It is a great album. It is, it's probably 95% sacred hymns. There's one original song on there that whatever. but the rest are all a fair number of them are from our hymnal, and so I learned it first from her, and then I was like, "Oh, look at that! It's in our hymnal." So then I loved it even more.
There you go.
So,
what about? Do you want to give anything away, Bri, or are you gonna?
No. So I just had to look it up. So I recently downloaded Michael W. Smith's Christmas album from 1989.
Yes.
Which is like a
classic.
certified jam. It's a certified album of jams, or an album of certified jams. So my two favorites right now are "O Come All Ye Faithful" and
good
"Angels We Have Heard on High," both
Classics.
of which on that album are
Those are good.
nice.
very nice.
Good classics.
Yes.
All right. Well, now that I know all about you guys, you get to know all about me.
Yes, I can't wait.
All right, I have 3 pages of notes here, people. 3 pages.
Tuck in, everyone.
Yeah, I'm seriously, like, grab your coffee. So from the group, I did put out a poll in the Facebook group, and I'm sure that this will still get some votes. I'm hoping. Go vote, people, for your favorite carol. "Oh Holy Night" is currently in front, and that is actually one of my favorites too. Actually, from the is it NSYNC album, I believe. NSYNC did "Oh Holy Night."
Really?
Yeah.
That's one of your
Yes, that one, Bri.
renditions?
It's a cappella. It's beautiful.
That's also a good album.
It's a really
I
good
don't care
album.
who knows it.
We won't talk about that too much today, though. The second is "Of the Father's Love Begotten." Fantastic hymn, fantastic carol. "Silent Night, Holy Night," which I was assuming would show up somewhere in the top for people because everyone sings that one all the time, especially in German. That one's a really great one to sing in German. And Rachel, "What Child Is This?" shows up number 4. So
Of course it does.
there you go. "Joy to the World."
I mean, and I love all of these hymns. It was really hard to pick one, but once,
Yeah.
that's
Well, they're so ingrained in our culture. It's
know.
like you sometimes forget all the great.
There's just so
There's
many.
like 65 poll options.
Yeah, there are
and
a,
that's not
there
even
are a lot
everything.
of options, and we didn't even cover everything. So that's kind of some of the favorites from the Facebook group. My 2 favorite memories have nothing to do with nearly anything that is in the Facebook poll. One of my favorite memories is the Christmas Cantata by Robert Rolfing. And this was published by CPH in 1936. So this is an oldie but a goodie. I'm not even sure. I don't think it's in print anymore. But it's all of Luke 2 set to music. So I learned how to sing Luke 2, and I know Luke 2 from memory now because we used to sing this for every Christmas pageant. And it's amazing, and I can't hear Luke 2 without singing this in my head. So if you can find this Christmas Cantata by Robert Rolfing, it's literally called the Christmas Cantata, do it and sing it because it's fantastic. We pull it out with my family every Christmas and try to sing through it. And then the other one is the one, I know. We sing through the hymnal. But anyway, the other favorite is the one that I get to talk about for the next however many minutes you guys let me blabber on about this, is the Quempas or the Quempas Carol or the Quempas Celebration, or however you find it in whatever hymnal you're looking at.
You might know this one is the one that a lot of pastors secretly want to do on Christmas, but then get bowled over by Silent Night fans.
Oh, that's sad. But
At least that was our experience. There, either the pastor or the organist, they would say, "So what about this for Christmas?" And someone would say, "Well, once we get through Silent Night and Angels We've Heard on High and What Child Is This?" I was usually that person at hymn planning meetings. People are going to not appreciate if we give space to take away from "O Come All Ye Faithful" and do the Quempas Carol.
Well,
But you're
tell
right,
us
Sarah.
more about
It's really
why,
lovely.
because lots of people are unfamiliar with it.
I don't even know what that is.
I know, and it's wonderful. So I pulled out all of my hymnals because this carol has such a good memory for me. We used to sing it in grade school, and this was when I was really young in grade school, maybe, I don't know, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. It's still there in my memory, but it's a little foggy. And we would dress up as angels, and we would hold candles, and we'd go to the 4 corners of the church, and we would all alternate singing the first, or a line of the first section, and I'll explain all of this in a minute. And then we would rotate while the adult choir would sing, and then the congregation would come in with the refrain, and it was amazing. And the church was dark, and it was Christmas Eve, and it was wonderful.
I have
That's so
one
special.
memory of that, almost the same thing. Were
Yes.
you, by any chance, did you grow up at Atonement Lutheran in Metairie,
I didn't.
Louisiana?
I grew up at Emmanuel in Dearborn.
We did that one year. I remember. I'm guessing it was when I was in 5th grade, maybe 4th grade, because it's a clear enough memory.
Yeah. So around the same time period-ish, give or take a few years. So yeah, and that's actually part of the tradition. So the Quempas Carol is actually also just a name for generic German carols. There was a German caroling tradition that was called the Quempas caroling, Quempas singen tradition at old Latin schools. And Martin Luther actually did this, according to one of my sources. When he was in Latin school, they would actually go house to house and sing for people, maybe for alms. And they would do this, every year to keep up this tradition. And there's also a Bärenreiter published in 1930, the Quempas Heft, to bring back the tradition of singing carols. And they've published a few editions since then. So Quempas can also mean, in a different sense, just singing of carols. It doesn't always refer to this one carol. So I researched all of my hymnals. We have a long shelf full of hymnals from lots of different denominations. Most of them actually have the Paul Gerhardt text to the tune that we know as Quempas. And that is a different text, a different Paul Gerhardt. You can research Paul Gerhardt on your own time. I don't have nearly enough time to talk about him today. Also,
he's awesome.
He is fantastic. He's probably one of my top 3 hymn writers of all time. I just made that number up. So the Quempastoris Laudavere is a Latin carol, first translated into German, then translated into English. It's in our hymnals as He Whom Shepherds Once Came Praising. So the first line of this is, He whom shepherds once came praising, awed by heavenly light ablazing, cheered by angel news amazing, King of glory, Christ is born. And then the second part of it is actually a separate carol, but I get to that in a minute. It goes, the glorious angels came today, aglow with light into the night of darkness deep, to shepherds who by moon's bright ray did in the field or sheep their silent vigil keep. Joy, great joy, and tidings glad we bring from heaven resounding, for you, and all the world abounding. And then the refrain goes, God's own Son is born a child, God the Father is reconciled. The full carol is in a Lutheran Book of Worship and Lutheran Worship. It's not in TLH, but it is in the worship supplement to TLH from 1969. And I actually brought that with me to the studio because I needed something. I needed a book with me in the studio today. So it originally is from Latin, Middle Ages, probably 1400, 1410-ish. It's in a manuscript in the Hohenfurth Abbey, which is what was Bohemia, now in Prague. It has the texts of the first 2 sections, which are the Quempastoris and the Nunc Angelorum. So this Latin carol is made up of 3 sections. It's Quempastoris, Nunc Angelorum, and the Resonat in Laudibus. And so these three parts make up the 3 parts of the whole. And the third one, Resonant in Laudibus, we only use part of the text and the tune for this one. Resonant in Laudibus is actually a full carol by itself, but we don't actually sing the whole thing. The earliest German translation of the first part, the Quempastoris Laudavere, was by Valentin Triller. He lived in Poland. He was a pastor in Bohemia. And he did the German translation for the first part in 1555. I will try this in German, Wie Schlesische Singbuchlein aus göttlicher Schrift. There you go.
Sounds legit.
The tune was associated with several German texts. So there were this tune and then lots of German texts. So if you look in really old German hymnals, you might find different texts associated with it. Nunc Angelorum and Resonat Laudibus were in Lutheran hymnals starting in 1543 and following. So specifically in Joseph Kluck's Geistliche Lieder zu Wittenberg. So it was in that one. All of this happened during the Reformation, but Martin Luther doesn't really talk about it in any of his writings, although he did participate in the Quempas Singen. He doesn't really deal much with the carol. I don't know, maybe it was just a thing for him. But after the Reformation, both the Quempastoris and the Nunc Angelorum, which are the first 2 parts of the carol, are side by side in a lot of hymnals. And a lot of us are most familiar with the Michael Praetorius setting of this hymn. That's the most common one. In 1607, I think he composed this setting for it with the German text "Den die Hirten lobenten sehr." So now the English, because most of us don't sing it in German anymore. English translations were done by Martin Seltz and Herbert Bourman. So Martin Seltz did the first section, just the Quempastoris Laudavere, and Herbert Bourman did the The glorious angels came today, and the rest of it. For the worship supplement 1969, which is when it started being in our LCMS present day hymnals. And so the performance of it, we talked about this a little bit, and which is why our memories, Erin and me, our memories are probably similar. So the first hymnal that talked about the tradition of how it was sung was actually in 1569. So this is a really, really old tradition, which is why I think it's super cool that we still do it like this today. In Johann Leisentritt's Roman Catholic hymnal, Geistliche Lieder und Psalmen, in 1567, he said it's a beautiful song for boys to sing in 4 choirs. And then it was also talked about later in the Matthias Lütke. He did a choir office book in 1589, and he was a Lutheran. And at that point, that's kind of when it became like the normal way for choirs to sing in this traditional way. So it's usually sung Christmas Eve, maybe Christmas midnight, or Epiphany, actually, which I didn't realize. I don't think I had never sung it on Epiphany. Like a 12th night service. Pretty cool. So it's usually in a dark church. You got like the whole ambiance going on. You've got the kids dressed up as angels and they're holding candles, trying not to burn the church down. And so you have these four groups of choirs of kids. And then so one group sings the first line, and then the next group sings the second line, and then the third group sings the third line, the fourth group sings the fourth line. And then you have the adult choir that sings the first verse of the second part. The glorious angels came today, aglow with light into the night of darkness deep. And then while they're singing that, the kids will rotate to the next corners. And then when the adult choir is done, everyone bursts into the refrain, God's own son is born, a child is born, a child. And then they start from the beginning again with verse 2 for the whole thing.
What?
And what I didn't mention is that they go into the 4 corners to signify the news of Christ's birth being proclaimed to the 4 corners of the earth, going all over, which is also a really cool part of it.
I can't stop thinking about baby Sarah, dressed as an angel, singing this little song with a candle. I am obsessed with that vision right now.
It was so fun. It must have made a big impression on me because I don't think I was that old. But like this has been my favorite carol for the longest time. My dad had an LBW on our piano when I was growing up. And I distinctly remember probably every year, or more often probably because of my love for hymnals, I remember pulling out the LBW and like singing through the hymn while I was like dancing around our living room. So like it's been this thing for me for a really long time.
Could it be the hymn that made you a hymn nerd?
It may be. This might be the origin story.
Gosh, this is your origin story.
Oh, that is nice.
Oh, that's special.
It's very possible.
Do you think you could do this thing with like not fire lit candles?
Ours were battery lit candles.
Okay, good. I'm just picturing all these children. See, you got to understand, you guys, when I was a teenager, we were having a candle lit procession into the church, either Easter or Christmas. And one gentleman caught his wife's hair on fire.
Too much
It went out really quickly, but I still remember the smell.
I do still. Every year for Christmas Eve, I sort of have a little trepidation while we're all singing Silent Night. It's sort of a song of mixed emotions because it's so lovely. But then I see, the child who's fiddling around with that candle, and then the bulletin's really close to that flame.
Brother on fire.
Something's
then
gonna
it's like
burn.
suddenly somebody's burned by wax, and
Oh my gosh. Look
I am always very happy when someone has the kind of candle with the plastic cup around it rather than the flimsy little paper shield. But then I've got 4 kids in the pew with me. So it's a very stressful thing. So if you tell me that there are electric candles involved in this,
Oh, yes.
then that makes my heart much more peaceful and able
yeah.
to appreciate this
Yeah.
beautiful tradition that you tell us of.
Ours were definitely battery because I probably would have burnt something down if I had a real candle. I'm still terrified of that. Whenever we have candles, I'm like almost shaking because I'm so afraid I'm going to burn something.
No acolyting for you.
No. So I pulled my book out, my worship supplement, 1969, and it smells like.
Can I smell that?
It smells like old book.
I won't lose your place.
It's wonderful.
Oh, you're not getting this back, though. Oh, that's good.
It smells like a wonderful
Sorry.
old book. And this one's actually from, this has a stamp in it, and it says Concordia Teachers College, River Forest, Illinois.
Yeah.
So this is legit.
You didn't steal that, did you?
This is for my husband, so you're going to have to ask him. I don't know. But this is
We'll
just
just
wonderful.
assume not.
The Quempas Carol is kind of making a resurgence this year. The CPH Advent resource is actually the Quempas Carol, and it involves the hymn. And so every week there's a verse of the hymn that you do for the midweek Advent service. Oh, wow. So that is really cool. And you can get that from CPH for 2019 in case you're listening to this after 2019. And also you can always research the Quempas Carol on CPH and listen to, or on CPH. You can research. I'm going to scratch that one. You guys are distracting me. What is happening?
I'm dead. I've died.
I'm going to have to cut that
I came
part
up
out.
with my first ever hashtag, but I was going to wait for a moment.
I'm sorry.
So it's appropriate.
Almost Snaps is just misfired. That was brilliant. I'm sorry. Erin.
So you can search YouTube for the Quempas Carol, and there's a recording by CPH, so you can actually hear it. I also got a little group of us together from the International Center to sing the first verse of the Quempas Carol, the version I remember from the Lutheran Book of Worship. So stick around at the end of this episode, and you can hear what that sounds like, too. I do have to give a shout out to Peter Reske from Concordia Publishing House for his help in researching this episode. It was super helpful for me to find all the details with his help. Erin, do you want to share your hashtag?
I
hope you're ready for this.
First ever hashtag. It's hashtag Serenade.
But it's Sarah instead of Sarah.
That was
Hashtag
genius.
Serenade.
Oh, I'm going to have to use that. I feel so
gosh.
special.
Now you know why I was like
Uh-huh.
in my chair like that.
Oh, man, I love it. I have nothing else to add to this. So that's all the time we have for this episode.
Merry Christmas.
Of the Lutheran Ladies
everyone.
Lounge. Happy Advent. Merry Christmas, depending on when you're listening to this. And don't get angry at us if it's not Christmas season and we
Hey,
said
it's your
Merry
fault
Christmas.
if you're listening to this too early.
Yeah.
Go
Do not
prepare.
I
open
should have
till
put a
Christmas.
spoiler
Go
alert
prepare
at the
your
beginning.
Quempas carols so you can go sing them in your congregations, and share your favorite Christmas carols in the Lutheran Ladies Lounge Facebook group. And you can always find podcast episodes at kfuo.org/Lutheran Ladies Lounge. I'm Sarah,
I'm Erin.
I'm Bri.
And I'm Rachel.
and you're listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. Ye whom shepherds once came praising, followed by heavenly light ablazing, cheered by angel news amazing, King of glory, Christ is born. The glorious angels came today, Lord, go reflecting to the night of darkness came. The shepherds who by woods might reign, did in the field those sheep their silent vigil keep. Joy, great joy, and tidings glad we bring from memories hallowing. For you, and all the world longing. God's own Son is born a child, is born a child. God the Father is reconciled, is reconciled. Views and opinions expressed on the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast may not represent the official position of the management or ownership of KFUO Radio, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. The Lutheran Ladies Lounge is produced by KFUO Radio and available at kfuo.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Join our community on Facebook in the Lutheran Ladies Lounge.